morning, and welcome back to a hopefully less jumpy edition of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Queen Quindy, Justin, John, and Kiki. Oh, don't slip, don't slip. Kiki with a giant paw. Hi, giant paw. Oh, giant paw. Yes, it's not windy today, so we're going to hope that it's actually a better day for streaming. Giant Dog says, I am giant. Are you ready to get down? Ready to get down? Hi, Paw. Hi, Paw. Good girl. Yeah? Oh, good girl. Good girl. Oh, and thank you, Clavicus, for the resub. 35 months, Kiki. 35. That's a long time. That's more than you've been alive. A lot more than you've been alive. It's true. She looks affronted. And Caerindra with a prime resub for 43 months. Do you know how many months that is? That's 5 times. That's more than 5 times your lifespan right now. Your current life. She's like, where is that person? Oh, we've got Noble Shiloh. Look, although you can't see the ears. Oh, you've got the rain now. Okay, Ba. Let's go. Come on, let's go out. Hold on, I'm going to give her a bone, everybody, and I'll be right back. Mama's going to go and have her stream, okay? Good girl. Good girl. She's actually a pretty good girl today. She's a very intelligent dog, Caerindra. That is the problem. That is the problem for when you've got a really intelligent dog. It's like keeping them busy and engaged. No, not at all, Pendrake. The meds have not put a dent in Kiki at all. Not at all. Kiki, you give Kiki the drugs that are supposed to be a sedative, and Kiki's like, la, la, la. So no, not at all. No, she's just getting older. Like any like calming thing, any slightly better behaved like Kiki that you may see is purely just because she's getting older. And I played with her a lot this morning, but she's actually, her last dose of meds was last night, so she's not even on meds this morning. We shall hopefully return to a norm. All right, yay! We were working with the skin tone last night. A skin tone yesterday, so we'll see. Hopefully, since the wind is done. Oh, I've got a hair. I've got a Kiki hair on my model. This is a problem with her coming up so close. Boop! Got to get that out of frame, or it's going to focus on that. And we'll do that. There we go. So the skin tone that I had in mind here was a Latin kind of Hispanic skin tone. It's not quite as dark as I would like it, so I'm going to just put a glaze over it probably. Latinx skin tones can be very hard to nail because there's such a range. And because they're like, a lot of the times the highlights will read like almost like more pinkish, but the shadows will be more golden or brown. So it's very, very... Yes, shepherds are very regal. It's what people don't understand. It's like, I actually read this in an article long ago with somebody who had owned shepherds for many years, and they're like, yes, what you don't understand about owning a shepherd is that all of those great posed shots you see of the dog looking so regal is a 10-year-old, much lower energy veteran dog, rather than the incredibly no-brain-celled bouncy puppy that you get at anything before that. But yes, Comcast had nothing to say for itself. Like, Comcast doesn't, if it's not actually an outage, Comcast says nothing, Pendrake. Like, there's nothing we can do. Like, I'm just like, I told David about it, and he's like, wind. Sadly, being in California, we are trapped. We are trapped. Unless we put in FiOS, which presumably they would run a ground cable for, but would still be subject to any greater power outages due to weather, of which there are many in California. Just the kind of dog and stupidity that gives intelligence a good run for its money. That's the whole that works out of the meme of talent is overrated and stick-to-itiveness. Grit matters more than talent. There are plenty of talented people in the world who do absolutely nothing with their talent or who don't achieve very much. But the people who really, really make the effort and stick to it achieve a lot. Or at least on average, achieve more. I'm going to just do a 2-to-1 real quick. Actually, let's mix up a big puddle of this. So I'm doing 4 drops of Ready Flesh, 2 drops of Tan Skin. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. So Cory Doctorow and another writer who's also a lawyer put out a book recently that I picked up last night. And what it made me do, actually, is it made me go to a different company for audiobooks. Because as many of you are well aware, creatives are kind of screwed in this, reality. A lot of the big companies that offer contracts to creatives take the lion's share of the profits, and the person who actually came up with the IP is kind of screwed out of a lot of money. And there's not much you can do because it's the way you get your stuff out to the public. But I just discovered this app thanks to Cory, because the only chapter of his book he put up on Audible was the chapter that talks about how terrible Audible's practices are, which I think is hilarious. But if you all are interested, it's actually a audiobook app that how it works is you can do a subscription or you can just buy books a la carte, but they make a donation to a local bookstore of your choice when you do it. So it's called Libro FM, and there's this little icon, Libro FM. And so that was the only platform that I could get his book on for it, because I wanted to listen to it audio because it's nonfiction. I wanted to do that. But a lot of their choices for audiobooks are also curated by those bookstores that you are donating to. So we have a couple of local bookstore chains here and just local stores in my area. So I chose the one that's closest to us to donate to because we always go there to go Christmas shopping. So I thought that was kind of pretty cool that it's essentially a it's a non, what do you call it? I'm losing words today. It doesn't take advantage of the system. So yeah, so I wanted to let you guys know about that, just in case you are interested. If you listen to audiobooks, but you'd like to do it through a platform that does not prey upon the creator as much as Audible and Amazon, then there you go. And if you don't like Amazon, period, Audible is a subsidiary of Amazon, so there you go. You go to Libro and you have some audiobook options. I don't know that they're a nonprofit, but I suspect they still make money, but I like that they donate proceeds, and they're a lot less, like I said, they're a lot less, they don't prey upon the artist. Presumably you get a much better royalty from them. I haven't looked into, as a creator, I haven't looked into them. But since somebody asked yesterday about whether I would do audio, it actually was a timely thing. So I'll look at them if I do audio. I'm just so discouraged by the practices of pretty much the other big platforms. They're just really kind of bad. But before, nobody had a choice, right? So if we want people to have a choice, then we should patronize places that don't have those crappy practices. Yeah. Well, the book is called Choke Point. Is it Choke Point Capitalism? But Cory Doctorow, as many people may know, is really he's a very well-known best-selling author, and he is notorious for challenging Amazon on DRM. Like, he won't put his books up on Amazon as long as there's digital rights management enabled. Like, he finds that it doesn't stop criminals at all, and all it does is keep good people from being able to, like, share their books with family members and stuff, or transfer it to a non-Kindle platform to read it. So he's been a big voice in this for a long time, and then with that, he's just taken an intensive look on how creatives get screwed over, including the big 5 publishing companies screwing over writers for taking the majority of profits for their IPs when writers can't even make enough money to make a living these days. Let's see, what was I going to do? I was going to look up what it was. Yeah, Choke Point Capitalism is the name of the book. Cory Doctorow and Rebecca Giblin. Rebecca is the lawyer writer who helped him write it so that the factoids would be correct. And yeah. Sculpt an island on top of a dragon tortoise. That sounds really cool though, Kuro. You have to, like, share that with us when it gets to a point that you deem shareable. Oh, she's gone metric on you, Pendrake. Luckily, centimeters to inches is a pretty easy mental conversion. All right, so I'm mixing up my colors here. And what we want is a color that's, like, closer to brown skin, but not quite there. It's a light brown skin tone. And like I said, it can be very hard to nail these skin tones. The best thing to do is to, if you've got a good grasp of colors, is to look at people in real life. I had a patron ask me to coach them on this, and they had several photos of a friend of theirs who they were trying to match. So that helped. So you get to kilometers. Nobody understands kilometers. Nobody. Oh no! Bye, Crowley. Early Crowley. Boom. Crowley poofs out. Disappears. So these are the colors I've got. I made the Ruddy Flesh. I did a 2-to-1 Ruddy Flesh to tan skin. This is a 2-to-1 tan skin to Ruddy Flesh. You can see how they flip. But going up from here, I'm going to actually add white to this tone and see what it gets me. It may be a little, maybe not quite what I want, but the thing to remember about skin tones, guys, is that you really do need to add reddish tones to them. And a lot of the golden skin tones, if you don't add a lot of red, they're going to look Asiatic. And if you do add red, then they can be shifted in a different direction. And by adding red, I mean just adding, like, a little bit of red around the face, not even adding it to the skin tone. So a lot of times the way that we're taught as gamers to do skin tones, especially on 28s, is oversimplified, and it tends to look weird because the skin tone is too orangey and it doesn't have the red areas in it that we are used to seeing in people. So when I add a drop of pure white to this, it actually goes, it is pretty golden. You can see that the tan skin is much pinker, see? Community contest on another Discord. Oh, nice. That's funny. Yeah, I think the Bowser Dragon Turtle is definitely a thing that people do. It's a cool model. Only a lottery went away. No, you need to crowdfund it. We need to do a GoFund Caerindra to get to ReaperCon. Figure out how much it'll take, and let's do a GoFundMe. I bet I would pitch in. I would pitch in. You're never gonna win the lottery, but you might manage a GoFundMe to, like, offset some of your costs. GoFund Caerindra to ReaperCon. Yes. Like, if we plan it enough in advance, we could probably find you a roommate to split the cost of the room, and we could all chip in a little bit and manage to get you plane fare. We could make it attainable is my point. All right, so I'm just going to do my highlights up here, and I'm going to see kind of how this is coming along. I mentioned glazing it with the rich or with the Ready Skin, so I'm going to highlight it first and then see. You guys could see, though, how much even just the shadows are bringing out the skin tone here. And I thought that her hair color, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. I wanted to do, you know when people use henna to dye their hair? I wanted to kind of get that reddish tone. Let's see if I can get it. I need colors. I need images. And there are different colors of henna, but I really want that reddish. I really want that red one. Oh, ginger blonde. That's a pretty color. That's not for this mini, but this is a pretty color. We need to do a mini with that someday. For sure. All right, let's see. Yeah, I guess I'm looking for the red brown. I'm kind of looking for that. Like, that's even, yeah, more red brown, but with reddish highlights. I'm kind of was thinking of that. That's what I think of when I think of henna. So that's what I think I want to do on her hair. So we're going very warm with this model. Very warm, which, you know, when I originally looked at her before I decided on skin tones, I was thinking about doing her in blues. But now, if I'm doing a warm color scheme, I could do the Sergio thing and essentially keep all the colors warm. Now, I could still bring blues in on that, but they would need to be very warm blues. Very tealy blues with a lot of green in them. So you can see. But just see, like, the face is already coming out really well and we haven't even finished. Yeah, that red ginger color. Yep. Yeah, I really think that's pretty. It's like a strawberry blonde, right? Except even more red, which I like. So I'm going to do the cheekbone over here. I haven't thinned my paint a lot, but my colors are pretty close together. And if I'm going to glaze, then I really don't need to thin a lot. My first highlight does need to be... And this is a place where scale falls down for you, is that normally you do get a highlight on the upper lip here, but you also see a small shadow under the nose. And for 28 mil, you really can't do that under the nose shadow. The best you can do is to kind of try to shade the very underside of the nose. Yes, that's true. And if you teach classes at ReaperCon, Reaper does help pay for your expenses. Depending. They probably wouldn't be able to do airfare, or at least not all of airfare, since you're coming from Europe. But yeah, there are ways. There are ways. Yeah, I'm just saying, it's not impossible. It's not, I consider lottery win impossible, so it's not impossible. It is more possible than that. If you wish to come, Caerindra. All right, so we've got a highlight in here now. I've lost some of my brown tones. I'm gonna do a glaze with my shadow. But you don't need to be that good of an artist to teach. You can teach beginner classes, Kuro. A lot of us started doing that. Started doing beginner classes and kids classes, depending on how well you get along with kids. And some of us do that even when we are great painters, like Tish. Tish loves teaching kids. Actually, that reminded me, I need to refer her to somebody I know who's setting up some classes elsewhere. But yeah, never assume that you have to be like Ann level or Derek Schubert level to teach. It's not true. We need people to teach all sorts of classes. Even if you can't paint, but you're good at basing. Basing classes are always popular. All right, so I'm gonna glaze because I've brought up, it's a much more Asian skin tone. It's much more golden now, but I want to bring it down a little bit. So I'm gonna glaze with this. And since I am glazing a very small area, I'm just gonna brush it right over the top very loosely. And that is going to make the skin tone go a little bit more brown, a little bit more golden, which actually I really like. That's really kind of cool, looking good. Excellent. I'm going to put a beginning hair color down. I'm going to use Ruddy Leather because I want a brown, definitely brown. I need to double check my reference. Yeah, it's definitely an orangey brown. This is even a little bit red, so I'm going to put a little bit of orange in this, in the Ruddy Leather. So my example is here, and I'm aiming for this really brown tone, except for the top. The top I'll let myself go more orange. I don't want to go too red. It's like, you know, an hour and 3/4 per class, right? So, and if you do a survey class like that, yeah, you're more of a tour guide. Like if you, like John Bono used to do How Not to Suck, where he taught like materials and then some basic techniques or some intermediate, the bridging techniques like layering and glazing, stuff like that. And yeah, I think that Agent Marvel's right. You could totally teach painting dragons. That is absolutely on the money right there. All right, where's a nice orangey color? Where's my Harvest Brown? There it is. So I feel like half Ruddy Leather and half Harvest Brown for this henna color. Oh, cool. Yep, yeah, he and Farrah live just down the street. Not far from Reaper. Yeah, step 1, make sure the dragon is sculpted by Julie. Yes, absolutely, I agree. I endorse this message. Glue can be a little bit rough with kids too, though. Like you have to figure out what age group you're gonna do that with. Pendrake says super glue is still pretty toxic and hard, and you can still stick yourself together with it. Oh, good. Good, I'm glad. Because John has been talking for years about doing more mini painting, Zachariah, and he needs to get back into it. Because he could, John is somebody who like has the drive, or if he wanted to, he could get really super good. Like really, really super good. Top level, super good. Because he's got the eye and he's got the drive, and he's most of the way there, right? He just needs to paint more. And then start experimenting and pushing himself. If he wants to go there, maybe he just wants to like paint, but he has the potential to do that. As do you. Like, but it's all what you're looking for in the hobby. There's nothing righteous about going, high level. It's all what is going to be rewarding for you. And it is not rewarding for everybody. I've got the color now, but I thinned it too much, so I'm going to just go back in. That's my color. I'm going to go back in and do that again with 2 drops of this. And then 1 drop of the Harvest Brown. Yeah, we need to protect Caerindra. Have a Caerindra preserve set up at ReaperCon. But seriously, Kiro, if you ever really wanted to come, I'm sure we could make something work. Just keep getting better at painting dragons, and if you taught like 4 classes on like different aspects of dragon painting, like maybe an overview, maybe two dragon class overviews, like or one prepping dragons, prepping and putting together dragons, and then a painting overview of the different parts of the dragon and different techniques you can use. And then, maybe you could do a focus group on like dragon faces, like horns, teeth, that kind of thing. Well, good. Yeah. Good, Zachariah. Yeah, good. I hope we do. Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for, actually. If Pacific Islander Polly, if you look at that skin tone, that's very close to what we also think about as a kind of a Hispanic skin tone, right? So That's where I'm aiming. So if I nailed that, then we've got it. Like, that's good. Now I just need to add other colors so we can see what it looks like next to other colors. Because remember, your color is always going to shift depending on what you put next to it. Like, if I start putting blue on this model, I'm going to see a shift toward a lot of, like, a very orangey shift up here. So I have to think about that. And you can choose colors to influence that, you guys. So, like, say I wanted to bring out the golden tones in her skin more than the orange, then I'd go purple. Do you see how that works? Because remember, the presence of complementary colors on a miniature causes both to look more intense. So when you've got a halfway color, which is golden or orangey, like golden brown, you can either emphasize the oranginess of it by putting blue on, or you can emphasize the yellow by putting purple. Or you can evade all of that and go very warm and red with other things on the model, and maybe you just don't go cold at all. Maybe you just don't reach for any of those cooler colors. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of, yeah. Heal up and get better. Because obviously when you don't feel well, then travel's like freaking out of the question. I mean, I've been there. Yeah, so keep climbing mountains. Set yourself a mountain. Climb X mountains, and then we can consider ReaperCon. Yeah, but you know we're all about the encouragement, Carnico. Plus, we all love you, and we'd really love to meet you in person. I mean, if I have to, I'll go to Scotland. But, I mean, I do love rain. And I would like to see Edinburgh again. And I really would like to get some other places. Like, I never got out to... I traveled around Scotland, but I was, like, deathly ill for part of it. And so I remember St. Andrews, but that was the first day I got really sick. And then I totally, like, did not remember York at all because I was deathly ill at that point. And my family went out and did things, and I stayed in the bed and breakfast room puking my lungs up. So that works. That hair color works with her. And I'm going to shade it, I think, with a little bit more of a reddish tone. I may go with Auburn Shadow for that. I don't want it to pop too red, but I can get away with putting a little bit more red-brown in the shadows. So this is a good middle range, I think, for henna. Yeah, I remember us driving into York, and then everything is a blank. Everything is a blank. I was so sick. We had to go to St. Andrews, though, because my parents are both... Well, and my brother. They're all avid golfers. So, I think that was half the reason Dad decided to go to Scotland for our family vacation. I would have liked to see parts of Wales, too. I don't know. I'll get back over there. And then we'll... I'll look you up, Carnico. There we go. So just getting that rich reddish brown color kind of figured in. Yeah, I want to see beautiful. I love scenery, and I like walking and hiking on scenery, beautiful scenery. So, and David also likes. That's why I've been actually working on. I'm kind of in your boat, Carnico, because I'm trying to rehab myself right now. I feel like my hip and everything have been kind of limiting me for a while now, so I've taken pains to do more exercises for it and PT, and I'm trying to introduce a bit of jogging into my evening walk to help build cardio endurance, because I would really like to be able to do like 4-mile hikes. Right now 2 miles, 2 to 3 is really my limit. Oh, you don't own York yet. I'm sorry. Well, put that on your list, dang it. But yeah. The time to go is in the spring, I think, Agent Marvel, if it's like it used to be. Because expect rain, obviously, from what you hear from Caerindra. Expect rain, but usually airfares are cheaper in the spring, early spring. Like, I've been to the UK twice in like late March, early April. Or I guess one time was like right before St. Patrick's Day weekend, so that would have been mid-March. And yeah, it's a bit rainy, so bring gear and clothes accordingly, but it was much less expensive to fly over there. Yeah. So when you decide to maybe go or to save up for it, budget based on like think about going in spring because it was definitely less expensive. All right, I need Auburn Shadow. Where are you, Auburn Shadow? There you are. So this color is a bit more reddish than what we've got. See? There we go. So you can see the orange, the brown, and the red. So this isn't too much darker than the color I'm using right now, but what it will let me do is add some red, more red to the color. So but yeah, we'll see how Kiki does with our Hawaii trip coming up this year. How she does like staying with a sitter. Oh, yeah, that would be cool, Agent Marvel. I gotta say, by the way, that, yeah, see, this is actually a little bit lighter. I think I want a darker red. Where's my Urgathoa? Yeah, let's try Urgathoa red. That's a darker red. That will give us more of a shadow. Maybe I'll use the Auburn. The Auburn shadow is actually a little lighter than my base coat, so I think I'm going to end up using it for something else. But I will say that if you decide to like start selling your miniatures, like painted miniatures, that can be an excellent way. I always say it's a great side gig, but what it is, I mean, it is really good for is putting money aside for a vacation. Because, you know, you can make an extra, you know, $25 to $100 a month by the end of the year. You know, that could be $1,200 toward a vacation, you know, or more if you put your, you know, if your stuff is popular and you like, you know, get a name for yourself. You could save up quite effectively for a vacation over the course of a couple of years that way. Especially if you're like okay with doing budgety vacations. Yeah. Yeah, if you want nice weather, I'm sure like May and June, but so I'm going to show you guys my colors after I get all these colors laid out. Spring and autumn, yeah. Yeah, the thing is you want to go when lots of other people aren't trying to go or the prices go up. So going in the spring, going in the early spring, we found it very easy to always find a B&B. I was pretty much, when I went with just my friend Greg, we went he's comfortable with being very off the cuff, and so we would just look for a B&B when we got into town at the end of each day, when we were traveling. Which was, you know, it's more loose than I like to travel, but we never had problems because we went during the time of year that wasn't super tourist season. So that was nice. All right, so let me show you the difference in these colors. You can very much see the difference of these colors too. So my Auburn Shadow was actually lighter than my midtone that I put down here. So I won't be able to use it as a shadow, but I can use it as a highlight, especially if I throw some orange into it. This is Urgathoa Red from Pathfinder. It's one of my favorite dark reds. It is a bit blue, but it will be fine for introducing some red tones into the shadows, and it is darker. It's not super amount darker, but that's with darker hair colors, though, you really aren't going to be able to put in a lot of extra shadows because you already have a pretty dark hair color. So I'm going to put one more coat on here just to make sure that I've got a good solid color. I think as long as you're like bring warmer clothes and you're ready for rain, like you can get some spaces of nice weather in the spring, but yeah. But yeah, I mean it's changed too, right? Because all the weather weirdness that we get nowadays with the global crazy. So now I'm sure it's different. I mean, Texas has certainly changed over the 20 years I lived there, and I haven't been to Scotland for that 2 decades, so. Kuroniko is the best judge of weather because she lives through it every day. Hey, Thormel. Yeah, that's really the nice side effect, right? Kuroniko, is we spent, like, that was when we went to Yosemite too, David and I. Oh, wow. Yeah. Lucky, Polly. Sounds like you had a really good trip. All right, I'm going to thin down. It's a 4-to-1 right now, but I think I'm going to thin my Ergothora red just a little bit more. And then I'm going to thin this a little bit more. I'm going to drop some orange in it. I think I'll do some orange brown. Although, let me look at my highlights. My highlights are actually brighter than that. So this is our reference. If I look really close, I've got some pretty orangey. Just a little bit brighter than this, I think. Just a little bit brighter, and then it goes more white. See, so this is important. I always talk about bringing up hair to white or near white. So these are the near white highlights. And the reason it's not stronger, the reason it's not a big blob of white is that each hair is reflecting the light. You can see that. So that's why it doesn't look like you need to go up to pure white on hair, but in actuality, you need to go close. You thin it down and you apply it like in little streaks, but you still need it. So for this like kind of vibrant orangey color, I need just a little bit more orange. And I could go with either a straight up orange or I could go with orange brown. I wouldn't go burnt orange because it's too washed out. I feel like this is a little washed out for that color too. Given that's a dye, that's an artificial color, but that's what we're doing. We're doing henna, so it can be artificial looking. We're all right with that. I am going to just go for sunrise, I think. I'm going to go for sunrise orange. I did not have this on a block, and I really should find a block for it. I'm not sure. I think my blocks are in the other room, my extra blocks. I'll have to fetch one later. Oh, actually, Mouseling is still on a block. I can steal his block back. You guys all remember Mouseling. He's been sitting there for a while, so we're going to have to use sticky tack to get the sticky tack off. Oh, there we go. It'll come off. There. All right. Little Mies. Mies says, hi, everybody. Remember me? Oh, the 23rd Quarterly Community Contest is here, Reaper says. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the West Coast. See, and the West Coast is where I really wanted to get Kuroniko, because you have all the scenery. All right, we're going to get our blue tack stickied up. Just like Silly Putty, you need to knead it a little bit so that it gets stickier. All right, now we've got our happy blue tack all nice and stickified. And we can put our mini on it. I'll press her down into it a little bit. Press, and then we can bring up, I like to push up the putty a little bit up on the base just a little bit so that it sticks them in, and that's more than enough to keep a bones model on a base. More than enough. Just got that little lip up there. Okay, make it a little nest. Make it a little nest of blue tack. Oh, an owlbear painting competition. Crazy talk. I want somebody to paint their owlbear like Adorb's owlbear. Right, Adorb's owlbear? There we go, popping a little bit of orange into this. And it's not a very strong color for mixing, so it's going to be a little bit hard to shift, but that's okay. I don't want to shift it too much. I just want it to pop a little bit. There we go. That's looking okay. And now it's looking significantly lighter than this, so it'll be a good starting highlight, and then we can go a little bit more this way, I think. Let's do that. And then let's mix a light, and we'll have our hair triad. So now that's a very bright, and I'm going to put a little bit of white in it because it needs white at this point. Actually, maybe Osirian sand. With oranges, I do like to use Osirian because it's got yellow in it when I want it to go that way. So 1 drop of Osirian here. And then we'll do a few drops over here. And we'll zoom out so we can see all those colors more realistically. And we'll mix this up. That'll take it up a little bit. And then we're going to take just a little bit of this and mix it into here. And if we have to, if this goes too dark, I will I'll grab a little bit more white and pop it in there, but I think this will work. It's close. It's a darker off-white, but it's still an off-white. All right. And then we just need to mix up that Orgotho red. Kiki and I are without bully sticks today, so I'll have to run to the dog store after we take our walk. Amazon said it was going to deliver our bully sticks last night, but it did not. Betrayal. And believe me, a Kiki without bully sticks is a very troublesome Kiki, so I'm going to drop just a little bit of walnut into here. And I'm going to keep dropping a little walnut. I'm essentially going to make it a really dark red. Oh, I need to shake up my walnut a little bit more. Then I'll zoom out and show you guys the whole range here of colors that we're using. There. That'll darken it down. Walnut's a pretty good shader for reds if you don't mind losing a bit of your vibrancy. There we go, getting right down there. Keeps the character of the Orgotho red, but darkens it down a lot. There we go, we'll try that. Yeah, that's what I say when it's been over 20 years since I've been there, Twisted Oma. That just means I have to like hustle and get my butt into traveling more. All right, so we're going to shade. Here's our colors. Let's get all our colors. So here we are. So we're going very warm so far. We've got very golden brown skin tones. We've got our orangish and reddish hair. So right now we're all warm colors, everything on the mini. This color, the hair color, you could use it that way. It's really close to the back of the shield though, so I don't think I'd have to dress it up a lot. The only way I would use it, Pendrake, I think, would be if I painted the shield walnut first, and then I just used that to bring out some wood grain. But it still would risk like the hair being the same color as the shield is going to be really obvious unless you manage to dress it up. So maybe use that but mix something else into it. I like to repeat colors on the model, but I like to make it not so obvious that I am. So I might use this color as a base for a wood color, but I would probably change it a little bit. All right, so let's grab this black red. And you guys can see just from the light where the shadow should be, right? It should be right around the sides of the crown here. You can see my light is falling up above. Actually, this is a really good guide right now for where our highlights and shadows go, isn't it? Because you can see where the light is naturally falling. You can see that it's lighter on top of the head. You can see this circle of highlight that goes around the crown of the head. You can see a shadow right here coming back up to a highlight as the hair on the shoulder gets hit. So just looking at the model like this and just taking a photo of it under correct lighting can serve as your guide to how to highlight it. So the other side is going to be similar, not quite as dark of a shadow because this hair is spreading out as it comes out from the head. You can see it there. It doesn't actually dip in as much as this side does. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But you can see there's still a little bit of a shadow there. And you can see you catch this light here and we have more of a shadow down here. So we'll do that when we're adding our dark red. And I'm just going to block paint. I'm going to use a brush stroke that goes in line with the hair texture, but I'm not going to actually do any strands. Got a little bit of a shadow here, got a shadow down here. And I'm pretty much just painting what I see as I move the model around in the light where I should have shadows. I'm still going to put a little bit of shadow over here. I'm just not going to do it as heavy as I did it on the back and this other side. I actually flattened this hair out a bit. I find that a lot of 3D sculpted hair is too ropey. So I took my knife and actually shaved down the tops of some of these strands to make them more flat and more paintable as normal hair. If you want to paint dreadlocks, then the ropiness is fine, but I find that it gets a little bit too much so for my tastes. You can decide to put a few more shadows in here between the strands if you want to. David and I were talking about whether I could record my own audiobook last night. And I pointed out to him that, because he's like, well, it's kind of a marathon. And I pointed out to him, well, I already talk nonstop for an hour and a half a day. So my voice is actually in pretty good condition. All things considered. It's, I probably could manage to read a chapter a day without going hoarse. So maybe if we do audiobooks, maybe I'll have to read my own. I always like it when an author reads their own book. As long as they're decent at it. Caerindra was looking at it. I found a place that I actually signed up for one last night. I was talking about this earlier. But there's a... it's not Audible and it's not like the other big one that's out there to find voice actors, but there's I could probably publish the audiobook on Libro. It would be a different platform, but it's supposed to have better terms. But eventually, the advice they give you, Caerindra, when you are a new writer, and it's very good advice, is not to invest money and time in an audio version until you know that the market wants your book. So wait to see if your book sells first, because audiobook production is expensive. Or it can be. So I'm going to wait, and if my book is, does pretty well, there's my first highlight with that orangey color. It'll dull down as it dries. And again, I'm not paying any attention to the strands. I'm just going to paint it around the crown of the head here. Kodiak, I missed my deadline today because my website design takes so long. I want to whine a little here. My website did not get done yesterday, so that means I missed my deadline today. So the next deadline for me to hit would be the 17th, or it's going to be up by Monday no matter what. Like, even if everything else isn't done, I'm going to say screw it and put it out on Monday the 20th. But I'm hoping I can get it sooner than that. But I've got to get all my cogs and gears in place. It's not just, if it was just throwing a book out online, it's easy to do. But doing it like the right way with having, you know, a website and having the infrastructure and having all your pages done and all that kind of crap takes a while. I'm sick of like dealing with it right now, so it's going to be put out no matter what. Like, I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, grr. Grr. The website is almost done though. I got a lot done on it yesterday. It's just, it takes so long. Anybody who has programmed a website understands me. Even though I'm using a WordPress, I still have to learn WordPress. And I have to learn how to work with my theme that I chose for WordPress. And that's not as easy as it seems. It's just, and it's not like it's hard. It's just time consuming. Like, I have to go and, oh no, how do I add 2 buttons to this particular module? I need to go watch a video on that now, you know. Caerindra, that's funny. All right, so I've got some highlights on here now and some shadows. And I may mess around with those a little bit, but the color is close to what I wanted. So I'm just going to do some little adjustments if I feel like it here. But yeah, I'm grumbly because I wanted the book to be out by now, but I also realized that everything I'm doing is still necessary. So, because I really don't want to launch without somewhere that people can come to for updates on when the next book is going to come out, and I don't want to launch without having a mailing list in place so that I can communicate those things to people. And I want to have that in place like right away. I don't want to wait on it. I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting over the shadows on these strands. I don't want those strands to be quite so dark there. There we go. Now I'm liking the look of it. But yeah. Also, I have to, like, there's Patreon stuff I have had to work on, so I haven't had as much time to work on getting my website done as I had to do some Patreon stuff yesterday too, so. Cannot neglect the Patreon just because I want to be a published author. Have to actually do the Patreon. Yes, thank you for the Patreon push there, Quindy. And the YouTube push. And the Twitch push. Oof. On the plus side, I did write a new scene for book 2 today. In the morning. Like, I got an idea for it, so I just wrote it. Even though it sucked up a lot of time. I like that when you just get scenes that come to you. Alright, so now we're up to the orangey highlight, and now we are going to, yes, all the things. Now we're going to actually work on hitting some of these strands. And if you can, try to hit a little bit of the area between the strands too. Like, try to make your strand highlights really small. Because if you just, I don't like that ropey look, so I try to break up these big strands however I can. So if I can put 2 tiny highlights on a single, like, lock of hair, I will. Because otherwise, it just looks like big bands. So I try to be more finesseful of it. So you can see that highlight coming in around the crown of the head, and then I'll do a little bit Gonna hit an area right short of the outer part. Oh no, lag spikes are not allowed today. We're not, well, we're okay, we're a tiny bit windy. Like we have a little bit. I can see the palm tree, like there's wind. Like it's not stationary, but it's not like yesterday. Come on, internet. That was the first one today though, right? So that's good. We did over an hour with this being the first spike. And the other way to deal with the ropey parts is if you want extra highlights, put them in between. Like I put a little highlight in between these two strands. You can see that little tiny highlight there, and that helps to break it up as well. So essentially I just want to break up when the sculpt is gone, because hair is hard to do in 3D programs is what I've been told. So when it gets a little bit too ropey, try to just bring in a highlight in between those. Even though there's a shadow there, just kind of ignore that and do it anyway. Get those coppery highlights going on here. So this is coming out about the way I wanted it. It's a reddish brown with orange highlights. It has some deeper reds in it, but I've kept them really low key. All I care about is whether the small Scottish cat is happy. That's all I care. Alrighty. But yeah, I like the look of this. I like it a lot, so. Okay, good. Small Scottish cat is happy. That's all I need. That's really it. I love all of you, mind you, and it's hard to pick a favorite child, but as far as like, you know, my favorite viewer, I have to say probably the small Scottish cat is my edged on favorite. I don't know. It's hard to compete with something that cute. All right, so you can see how I'm breaking up those strands with little extra. Trying to steal. Well, Kiki keeps snoodling my my cowl in progress, and she like wants to nose the yarn ball. She's like, I suspect this should be a toy, and I'm like, no, that is not a toy. My cowl is taking a while, and by the time it's done, it won't be the season for it anymore. But that's okay. Likewise, I'll probably start knitting myself a top, like when I can figure out that'll be my next, like a simple top, like a tank top or something for summer. And I probably won't finish it till winter. I think that must be a knitting thing. Isn't that a knitting thing, Caerindra? Where you're like, oh, I really want a new scarf. I'm going to knit a new scarf, or I'm going to knit a new, you know, sweater. And by the time you're done with it, it's summer.
I have been pretty good about making at least a half an hour for my knitting a night, but it'll get better once Overwatch League is on. Because that's my show to knit to. So we've got that coming along really well. We only need our off-white highlight now, but I'm going to actually look at this. I want to make sure that I like the way it looks. Yeah, I think that must be a knitting thing where you start a project like kind of in or near the appropriate season, but it just goes so slowly, or you get distracted by other projects, and then you end up not finishing it till a totally inappropriate season, or waiting an extra 6 months so that it can be finished in an appropriate season. There we go. Lag spike. No! Stupid internet. I get so annoyed. I'm going to bring up highlights a little bit into the shadow section here, mixing my orange highlight with a little bit of my brown, my base brown, just to bring this stuff up a little bit. And I want to bring this one down a little bit along the face. So you don't want it to be like totally, you want to kind of mess up your border. You don't want just everything to cut off at one place. You can make it a little bit more irregular. Just a little. Bring a little bit of detail in. All right, now we're going to get white. At least we're getting close to the end of the stream. And I probably will finish the hair, and I need to put another highlight on my skin. And I feel like I also may need to glaze with a bit of a red, or to bring up the skin another level. All right, so got my off-white. I'm going to add some more water to it because it needs to be very thin indeed for me to get the very fine highlights I need. Yeah, that's true. It is winter every year. Eventually you will be able to wear it. Alrighty. So now I'm going to bring in that brighter highlight. I'll probably have to glaze over this because it's very easy to go too much on your highlights. And the bangs are very difficult to paint because they're very chunky. I think I need to thin this just a little bit more. It's just not wanting to come off the brush quite as well as I want it to. That's better. So I'm going to bring this up actually a little bit more than I wanted to, but I'm going to come back and blend it in a bit. Papa's checking on me. She's like, is it time yet? Is it time for our walk? I think I want to bring up more of my highlight up here too, my orange highlight on the top of the head. Because the whole top of the head should be lighter. But yeah, when the hair is a really, really like that ropey texture, it's so hard to highlight it right. Kind of gonna try to bring that together. Oh, that's my computer talking to me. Silly computer. Yeah, it's really hard to get those bangs. It's easier to get the hair out here because it's flatter. When you've got this really ropey look, it gets very difficult to make realistic highlights on these little models. The sculpt can really influence how well the hair turns out. You can do so much. You can only do so much to try to correct or change the look of the sculpt. Honestly, I probably should have gone in with some green and flattened out the bangs here, or a knife and chopped them down a little, but it is what it is. So we're just going to go with it. I'm just going to make it as good as it can be. And I'm always going back to my previous colors to try to blend things in. If I go a little strong with my white, I need to bring in more orange. And if I go and lose my strands or I get too much white down into the shadow like I did there, I'm going to grab my shadow color and touch it up. Hey, David, I won't do decals because I never do. And as for what we do on it, we can do freehand, but we're going to wait until we figure out who she is. Because right now, we don't know much about this model. We haven't made up a story about her or figured out what her main colors are and why. Now that's too narrow, so what we'll do is we'll take our orange and we're going to paint over that and spread it out a little bit. Then I'm going to come back a bit. I've got a little bit of a shine going there. Need to extend that down though a bit. It's hard to do. I mean, hair is just hard at 28. It's if you wonder why you have trouble with hair, it's because it is difficult at this scale. That's looking better. I feel like I need a little bit more of my base in there. In fact, I'm going to do a glaze of my base. I like my base color. And I want to damp this down just a little bit. Put a bunch of stuff on it. Rinse out your brush, pull it out, dry it off, and then come back and wick off excess. And you can paint it over the other side too. And paint it over the top of the head also. Make sure none of the water pools. And I need to bring up a highlight on this area that comes out over her shoulder because it's going to be highlighted. Didn't get the front. Yeah, it's a very kind of color. Okay, I think I've gotten that about the best it can be. I'm going to do one more little bit of highlight here. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'll have to look up some ideas. I decided to just paint this one very intuitively because that's how a lot of people choose their colors. You just like go with your gut. So kind of show my process again on how I do that. A lot of us are pretty intuitive in our creativity when it comes down to it. A lot of us don't choose colors until we're actually painting the model, which is just fine. Never think that you're doing it wrong if you do that way. You're going to be fine. You just need to remember a few rules to help make things go together, whatever you end up choosing for your colors. There we go. Shiny hair. I still feel like this is a little narrow, so I'm going to fix it. And then we'll finish by putting one more highlight on her skin because I want to see how that comes out. There we go. It's a little better. Well, you may wish that or you may not wish that, Kodiak. But you should be getting that. I mean, I say over and over, the main rule is to vary a light, a dark, and a medium. And to not mix colors that are really bright with colors that are really muted. Like, and, when in doubt, use your color wheel. Like, that's it. Like, seriously, don't think that there is some super secret way to choose colors. That right there, those 3 rules, that's it. At that point, all you have to do is paint some models and keep those rules in mind so that you can internalize those rules and just paint instinctively. Because it's not necessarily that intuitive painting is like better or worse than anything, but it's like, if you just are intuitive, if that's the way that your creativity wants to function, the best thing you can do is like to learn the simple rules that'll keep you out of trouble and just do those, execute on those, think about those as you are painting models until they become second nature. And then you can intuitively paint anything and you'll always make the right decision. Yep, that's exactly it. And that's another tactic that I've suggested in streams before, and one that I use, what I'm using with this model even. Because I knew that I wanted the skin tone and the hair color, and so I was like, all right, we're just going to choose other colors based on that. And that makes it easy, because then the color wheel will tell you what your options are, and you just need to ask yourself, okay, the color I started with, is it muted? Okay, that means every other color we put on this model is going to be at least a little muted. And I need to choose, because these are mid-ground colors, I need to choose one light color to go with them. And I need to choose at least one dark color to go with them. So that's the biggest thing. And I mean, one of the things we're going to look at too is the armor goes right up next to her head. So probably our light color is going to be the silver of the armor, like the metal of the armor. All right, I'm going to do a highlight to the skin real quick. But yeah, those 3 rules, Kodiak, that's it. Like, there's no big secret way of color picking. Like, that's what everybody does. But the people who are really good at it make it look like magic. And that's just a lot of practice and always kind of keeping in mind and troubleshooting. It's like you learn to be a good writer by editing. And so paint a model, and if it's not working, ask yourself, did I follow these rules? Did I have a mixture of light and medium and dark colors on the model? Am I using my color wheel? Like if I started with orange, did I use green and purple? Or did I use blue? Or did I use some other color scheme that the color wheel helped me pick? And then if it's really clashing, did I use brighter colors along with really muted colors? Then maybe I need to either brighten up my muted colors or tone down my bright colors. Like, that's it. So you will make mistakes when you start, but take those 3 points and paint your next model with them in mind. Remember to alternate light, medium, and dark too, as much as you can. So if you're starting with the face, we'll just work out from there. And if I've got really light armor, I'm probably going to have darker leather to go over the top of that, right? But we'll see. And then, I'm going to be looking at other colors that go with, and obviously I'll need a cloth color that's kind of an accent, right? Because she's got these bits of probably leather down here, but they can be colored, and then she's got her cape. So we'll need to figure out the color that we want these things to be that will make it work. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just keep those 3 things in mind, Kodiak. And when you start your next model, just pick a color that you like that seems to work with the model, but do everything else from there. And always be asking those questions. Always be asking, did I alternate my light and dark? Did I choose a muted palette or a bright palette? And how does this look on the color wheel? And you don't even need to have a color wheel. Because when it comes down to it, it's pretty easy to remember the primary and secondary triads, and it's pretty easy to remember what's complementary. And that's really what you are working from. But yeah, we love to overcomplicate things. Try not to let it attack you. Try not to let the overcomplication attack you. It's when things get overcomplicated, that's when you feel overwhelmed and like you'll never learn it. And simplify it and believe that it is that simple, and then it's just practice. And also everybody screws it up. And even if you screw it up, there are ways to bring it back. I don't actually like the color choosing websites, Slalom, because I find that sometimes they, it depends. I don't remember if I actually went to that one. But a lot of times I think they make it a little too complicated. Like they come up with a color scheme for you, sure, but they don't, tell you why it works. Although you could use the rules that I just outlined and try to figure out why it works. And sometimes, honestly, they come up with color schemes I think are ugly. Just because it works in theory doesn't mean it'll actually work on a miniature. But yes, there are color choosing websites out there. Yes, you can use them. Yes, often they will work just fine. The biggest thing there is then just finding the paint color that matches the swatch color on the website. Or if it is like something like Paint Rack, then you'll have that option already to know what paint color matches. Yeah, and most of them, that's just it, right? Most of them end up being 3 different shades of the same color, or they're pulling from palettes that are common in past fashion eras, right? And some of those are pretty ugly. So, I mean, I find keeping it simple is the best. Like, actually I saved something just the other day. Hold on. Let's see if I actually saved it or if I deleted it off my my photo roll. But I was just thinking of this exact thing. Let's see here. It was from a Jeremy email. It was a little painted critter from Figone. Nope, I didn't save it. That's too bad. Although, actually, let's see here. So here's one from, I think it's from Scale Color Artists. They're talking about cartoon highlighting versus realistic or, like modern highlighting. But I mean, here, you've obviously got some purple and yellow going on. And then they've chosen to also throw in the green, right? So, but in general with this, you're dealing with, and really you've got reddish skin tones. So you've got 2 complementaries here. So this is going with 4 colors, and that makes it a little bit more. Oh no, Luca time change, oh no. But so this is just an example of like, even like the fanciest like paint scheme that you see a pro painter do, you can always break it down by color and see why they made the decisions they did. Technically, they have almost every color on this. In fact, if you count the brown as an orange, they do have every color because they've gone with blue for some reason up here with the ears. I would have gone with green, but that's just me. I like to repeat colors, and they did repeat the blue around here and here. So, but the thing is, like, break it down, right? Okay, so the hair is purplish. Oh, we've got yellow. There we go, right? The skin is reddish. Oh, we've got green. There we go, right? And what parts of the skin aren't reddish or orangish, and we've got this brown, which counts as an orange. Oh, look, we've got blue. So essentially we have every color. This model is painted with pretty much every color. And they're just choosing colors, to offset other colors. But do make a note of what they did here. Like they put some really dark shadows around the face to help define it. They went with a darker green for this because they've got a light skin tone and a light yellow here. And they're going with a darker brown here on the edges to separate this yellow from the skin, right? So obviously this isn't finished. It's a work in progress. But that's just to show you kind of what they're thinking about right here. If we got a light color, we got to have a dark color. And now then it's going to go back to a light color. So if we've got 2 light colors, we need to use a dark color to separate them. If we got 2 light spaces, we need to use a dark color to separate them and a dark color next to it, right? And then here where the cloth comes up against the skin, we've got a dark color here or a dark shadow here. And then it's got the green here, which is darker, right? So that brush is too enticing. But yeah, this is an example of how you break it down, right? And she's got a headset, and because her hair is lighter or mid, it's mid to light, right? So that headset had to be dark and neutral. Otherwise it wouldn't have stood out. Like you have to just, sometimes you just go with the easy answer because it's how you do it. So likewise, obviously the quick sketch that they did that was cartoon style, this has a lot of problems right now, right? So we've got light next to light for one thing, you know, and then we got more light and more light, and we don't have any like this is really light. So if they keep this white, obviously it's unpainted, right? But if we were trying to troubleshoot this, we would actually end up shading this yellow, making it go much darker next to that pale pink skin tone. We'd end up choosing a black jacket or something like dark blue because we've got this orange, right? So if we choose a dark blue, it's a complement. You know, does that make sense? Things like that. Or you could choose a purple because you've got this pink up here, or a green, but you need to make it dark, or it won't separate things. And we've got a kind of a problem here. The skin tone better come up a lot because it's got this orange here, or that orange needs to go darker. Like if that orange like drops a little bit and the skin tone goes up, we're fine. Because then we've got if we have a dark jacket, then we'll have a mid orange, then we've got a highlight, a light skin. But you've got to do that alternation. Like the biggest thing for me on this particular piece right now, as it stands just blocked in, is that, okay, so you've got an analogous color scheme, but you've got no lights and darks showing yet. So it's all the same, which is very hard to look at. So as opposed to this, which the darks kind of give your eye a break. Can you see that? Like go from this, which is kind of like screaming at your eyes, and go here. And notice how your eye and your head relaxes when you see that dark color. Because darks are more relaxing, right? They're not just screaming at you. And so we need those darks to break up our brights and lights and mids, our saturated mids. Even a saturated dark, it's something for your eyes to rest on and that doesn't hurt them. It's not just light, light, light. So that gives you kind of an example. When you cross between these, you can see that this is more relaxing to look at. It's got more variation. Whereas this, your brain is really not liking it. It's searching for the darks. It's searching for the contrast. So yeah. So there I got to talk about things and stuff. And Luca is going to be late. Got it. Or Luca's going to be an hour late. Got it. Just going to get a little bit of highlight up here on the forehead. Yeah, you can be as intuitive a painter as you want as long as you can troubleshoot effectively. And after a while, you don't even need to troubleshoot your own work because you'll automatically be making the decisions that result in a better paint job. All right, good. Yep. But yeah, for me, I'm slowly realizing, like, I spent a lot of time trying to put myself into a series of rules and regulations, right? Because part of me does like guidelines and rules and defaults and things like that because I like to be able to troubleshoot. I like to break things down. You guys get the benefit of that because I can break it down for you, right? But the other part of Anne is a really intuitive painter who likes to just kind of jump in and figure things out as she goes along. And so the way to do that reliably is to start with the rules, learn the rules, and then just go from your gut because your gut's going to internalize that stuff. So yes. Anyway, that's where we are, and we're Luca-less. Is Luca will Luca be on, Quindy? If I hang on for another 5 minutes, or is he just totally derailed by our lack of time zone sophistication? Finishes this last thing. Oh yeah. Okay. Could be 2 minutes, could be 10 minutes. Oh dear. Well, let's see here. I could throw a base color on for our armor. So I'm going to go a little darker than my standard cloudy gray. I think I'm going to mix in a little bit. Now here's where we have an opportunity. I could mix in a bit of blue to this gray to take it darker, and I could do that, which would give us a complement. But again, it would make the skin tone look more orangey. Nice and vague, very Luca, yes. Yes. Luca's the antithesis to Anne's explainingism. All right, I think I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go warm. I've decided to commit to Sergio on this one. Sergio, I'm channeling you. Do you hear me? So instead of going with a cooler gray undertone to the armor, I'm going to go with a warmer gray undertone to the armor and keep the whole thing warm. We'll paint this model keeping the warms in mind. So I'm going to go 4 drops. We can at least base our armor so we can apply metals. 4 drops of that, and I think I can do russet brown or black and brown. They're both good choices. They're both going to give me a warm gray. Kind of feel like black and brown might be what I'm feeling right now, though. It's going to maybe go a little bit purpley, because black and brown has red oxide in it, and when that hits the white and black, it tends to go purpley. Oh, a little bit too much. I'm going like this. I wanted to go 1 drop. I ended up going 1.5 drops. Let us just see what that comes out to. Yeah, that brown took over that gray super fast. All right, so let's put more gray in. We'll panic until you get back. We do that pretty well, Wendy. We do that pretty well. When you were taken down by the hurricane, I pretty much, we just panicked every day. Yeah, you can see how strong that black and brown is. I'm not going to waste too much more gray pigment on this. I'm going to just go there. There. We'll go there. So I've got a grayish brown right now, but this is a perfectly okay color to use underneath our metal. In fact, the darker we get, the shinier we tend to have when you put metal over the top of it. Okay, so let's take that color and just start applying it. I might need a little bit more water in it because that's a lot of paint. A lot of paint. That's us without Quindy. So then when we look at all of our color palette, by the way, we're still very warm, right? The gray is the coolest color. These two, actually, the walnut that I grabbed and the... just to fill in the eye when I blorfed it. And those are my coolest colors. But this is a very warm color palette. And yeah, it's a very pleasing color palette, right? It's very autumnal. Let's see here. Breastplate. And then there's shoulder plates. And that's a strap probably, but I'll just keep that there for now. You can always clean it up later. I always, we're going to do metallics on this one, Slalom. This is going to be a true metallics model because I think the armor pieces are big enough. Even though the sword is NMM, I'm not going to keep that. That was actually from a demo that I did for my Patreon. So I always will undercoat before I do metals. And usually also I start with a medium gray when I'm going to do NMM, and then I block in my darks and lights, and then we blend. Or sometimes we block in our darks and blend, and then we block in our lights and blend, and so, but you get the idea. But yeah, I do tend to work with a base coat first. Like I tend not to just put the paint on all at once. And part of that is using Master Series, which is a thinner paint in general. You can see what I mean about the purple though, right? You can kind of see that. No, this segment is not from a video, and it's gonna be painted over Pendrake because we're doing metals. I used this model. I needed a model to just do basic NMM on, so and the sword blade is one of the easier things to do that on. So I just chose this model to do that, but it means we'll just paint over that sword. NMM I will do on a model that has lots of fine detail or intricacies, like these guys. These are very much NMM models because things like that sword hilt, very small, fine detail, lots of fine, small edging on this model with lots of little details. NMM, in my opinion, on 28 is going to work better for those small details. So whenever I need to do anything very intricate, I will do that. Same thing with bigger models, 75 millimeter, something like this hip. I'm totally doing NMM on this. Not going to do metallics. The reason is that it's much more hard to control, like my shadow and where my highlights hit. Like obviously with true metallics, you can't. I mean, you can do some, but you can't keep it as tight as you can keep it with NMM. So when I've got something that's really beautiful and intricate that I want the design to really show up and I want to control the lighting, I'm going to do NMM every time. Whereas bigger, blockier things like these simple plates that she's wearing, I don't often do true metallics on 28 millimeter because I find that in general, NMM just looks better, but for the same reasons I outlined. This is all relatively small, comparatively speaking. But if I have lots of big plates like this, I will sometimes do true metallics on smaller models. Otherwise, though, I love true metallics on anything bigger, like busts. I seldom do NMM on busts. I will, again, if it's an intricate surface. But if it's big, especially if it's big and flat, this is just the ability to just go crazy with true metallics. Like, I would not turn down the opportunity to do this with true metallics, and I think it looks a lot better than NMM would. So, nope. Hey, Artistic, this is Reaper. So you're at Reaper Miniatures stream, and Reaper has various lines, but this is one of their Dungeon Dwellers line. Her name is Caerindra, and so she is... Reaper does fantasy figures for role-playing games, mostly. Yes. But yeah, so when I'm looking at a model, my first question is, how intricate is the metal, and will I need to do NMM to bring out those intricacies? Or, doing metallics, am I going to lose those intricacies? Two, do I have like lots of big open spaces where I could use shaded metallics? Because that's what I love to do. So, but yeah, Artistic. So that's where you are right now, Nikki. We've got here. We work on all Reaper miniatures on this stream. Here's some of the ones that we finished recently. Although she needs basing done, but this one we've done that one. Cool. Yeah, if you're into D&D, these models are all done for D&D for the most part. Reaper's been making miniatures for D&D for a very long time. They also do monsters. We have an Oli here, our pirate Knoll. He was fun. He's a good time. And he's an example of a model that I use true metallics on because his metallics are all very big and clunky. Like, they're very large, and there's not a lot of fine detail, and there's only a little bit. So I did true metallics on him. But yeah, that's where I draw the line.
as far as choosing whether I'm going to do True Metallics or NMM. Yeah, they're 4D and even they're not licensed, correct. They're just fantasy role-playing game figures. Cool, yeah. Reaper's in Texas, and I used to work for them full-time. I've designed their paint line. And then I met a guy and moved to California. So I'm out here. And I do the stream for Reaper now. So I've worked for Reaper for, hey guys, it's, what is it today? 15th? In 15 days, Quindy, take note, 15 days is my 20-year anniversary of working for Reaper Miniatures. 20 years. In April 1st of 2003, I showed up on Ed and Dave's doorstep, wondering if it was all a joke.